Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of Daybreak on Trust TV. We're right here live in the Federal Capital Territory. Good morning, I'm Darshan Husseina Usman.
It is a beautiful morning indeed. Welcome to the show, and I am Abdulaziz.
So, Abdulaziz, how's your weekend?
Anything
memorable happened?
And well, this weekend is quite uneventful, because
Yeah.
the political scene is quiet.
Everything is quiet, except for the national grid collapse again. That's
Oh yeah,
multiply,
actually, well, at Nigeria, one day, one trouble. Yes, exactly. For another time, I think this year, this is like about the fourth or third time.
In like 2 months, I think this is the third time.
Yeah, third time in 2 months.
In a month, right? I think it's in a month.
Yeah, it's between February and, between maybe late February or early March to this time. And that's quite embarrassing.
It is embarrassing and it is too much. Is there anything that can actually be done? Because we've actually pushed and, advised the government to look into all the other alternative measures.
Alternative sources of...
yes, like solar,
exactly. Well, all this hydro is a very old-fashioned power generation. But even the gas, I don't know why when it collapses, everything.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that the government has to find a very drastic solution out of it, because you can always be having power outage for the whole country.
Yeah,
That's really, but even for the news, it's really embarrassing. But
definitely.
I think they have somehow rectified it, because we had lights yesterday.
Yes. Okay, so hopefully it will last longer than usual.
Yeah, we hope so.
All right, so for the headlines at this hour, bandits invade Gwagwalada Area Council, kill Macban chairman.
Serap gives 48 hours to the federal government to unblock SIM cards blocked for unregistered lines.
The Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo, to declare his interest in 2023 general elections.
The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, will today declare his interest in the 2023 presidential election, capping months of behind-the-scene yet apparent mobilizations that have fueled speculations and pitted the number two against his erstwhile boss, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. According to sources with knowledge of the plans, except there is a change, Mr. Osinbajo's declaration will not involve any formal gathering. Rather, he will release a recorded video of about 7 to 10 minutes addressing the public and declaring his 2023 ambition to succeed President Muhammadu Buhari. The video will be distributed across his social media handles, and sources said the campaign team will get to working immediately afterwards. This style is different from others that had previously gone about declarations in public events.
Okay, moving on, the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has issued a 48-hour ultimatum to the federal government to unblock millions of unregistered lines. Last week, the federal government directed telecommunication companies in the country to bar all outgoing calls on subscriber identity modules not yet registered and linked with national identification numbers by users. While reacting to the ban via a statement issued on Sunday, SERAP asked President Muhammadu Buhari to direct the Minister of Communication and Digital Economy, Issa Pantami, and the Nigerian Communications Commission to immediately reverse the apparently unlawful decision to block over 72 million active telecommunication subscribers from making calls on their SIMs. While noting that the decision will dissuade the free expression of ideas and information, SERAP argued that the move is inconsistent and incompatible with the country's international legal obligations to respect, protect, promote, and facilitate economic and social rights.
Bandits have invaded Gwagwalada Area Council of Abuja and shot dead the chairman of Mieti Allah Cattle Breeders Association, Magvan, in the area, Adamu Aliyu. Aliyu was said to have been killed alongside 4 others near Dauku village in Dobi ward of the council on Thursday. Secretary of Magban, Mohammed Osman, who confirmed the incident on Sunday, said 3 persons were abducted while 3 others were sustained gunshot wounds are receiving treatment at the University of Abuja Teaching Hospital. He said the late Magban chairman was killed by bandits who emerged from the bush and opened fire on their vehicle while they were returning from Izom markets in Niger State. He said the deceased corpse had been buried according to Islamic rites. The chairman of Gogolada Area Council, Alhaji Adamu Mustafa, confirmed the incident to our reporter.
And that's a wrap on news highlights at this hour. I will be back after the break.
As the 2023 elections draw near, remember, evil prospers when good men and women only wish for peace, but never take a step to make peaceful elections happen. Are you a father? Are you a mother? What are you saying to your children as elections approach? Have you warned them not to let themselves be used to cause violence? Have you explained to them what the consequences of electoral violence might be? Do your part to make peaceful elections happen. Talk to your children. Protect them from unscrupulous politicians who want to put them in harm's way, while their own children are comfortable at home, within and outside the country. Let's join hands to make 2023 elections peaceful. This message is from the National Orientation Agency, NOAA.
Welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak on Trust TV. The recent court's judgment dismissing suits seeking removal of Cross River State Governor Ben Ayade for defecting to APC has generated debates among legal practitioners on his defection. Some senior lawyers speak on conflicting high court judgments, one sacking a state governor and another dismissing the suit in similar cases. They speak to Trust TV's Shafi'u Suleiman against the backdrop of a judicial logjam on the sidelines of a Court of Appeal Enugu Division judgment on the matter. Take a look.
Though defection or cross-carpeting amongst political office holders is not novel, have been featured minimally in the First Republic, prominently in the Second Republic, and now frequently. Litigations around the political anomaly are also not novel, from Supreme Court pronouncement in Atiku vs. Obasanjo, Amechi vs. INEC, and now involving governors of Ebonyi, Cross River, and Zamfara states. On March 9, 2022, Justice Inyang Eko of the Federal High Court Abuja applied the judicial sledgehammer as he sacks Governor David Umahi, his deputy, and 20 other lawmakers for abandoning their party, the PDP, to APC.
It is true that a judge can iron out decreases from a texture, but he should not change the entire material from which the texture was made. And that for them to do that, as the Court of Appeal said last week, for a judge to do that and bring it to the Constitution, what is not there amounts to nothing but judicial impertinence and judicial rascality.
I will go with Justice Eko. And my reason is not far-fetched. One, you cannot become even a candidate without being sponsored by a political party. You must be sponsored by a political party. Number two, like I said earlier, the Supreme Court has stated in Amechi against INEC that votes belongs to a political party. And the Supreme Court has been very consistent with that.
Just about the moment another presiding Federal High Court judge, Justice Taiwo, was about to deliver judgment in a similar suit involving Cross River State Governor Ben Ayade, a Court of Appeal Enugu Division dismissed a suit against the embattled David Umahi, citing constitutional lacuna. The question is, can there be remedy to this political rascality?
Yes. What is the solution? Section 9 of the Constitution. Let the National Assembly, the legislature, do their job by amending the Constitution to include that defection will now be punishable by you being removed from office.
I don't think the national, because it's a very volatile political issue. So the interests of the political parties are involved. The interests of the governors are involved. So, and you know, the National Assembly would like to play smart and leave it for the court to decide.
Justice Taiwo was compelled to toe the line of a superior court judgment in deciding on Ayadeba's PDP to avoid getting involved in what he cited as judicial rascality.
You cannot punish a governor for defecting, and that the Constitution has not provided that defection is one of the reasons a governor can lose his seat, or president, or vice president, or deputy governor. The situations under which they can lose their seat have been provided for exhaustively by the Constitution in sections 180, 188, and 189 of the Constitution.
The Constitution is the ground norm, but even the Constitution left its own, the interpretation of that ground norm to the judiciary. So it is the court that can interpret and say this is what it is.
As the legal battle to put an end to arbitrary defections by elected political office holders get to the apex Supreme Court for remedy, legal experts say the days for cross-carpeting without recourse to people's mandate may have been numbered. Shapir Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
That's quite interesting issue, Sena. I don't know, what do you think of all this rigmarole over defections, over the consequences of governors defecting? Because
two questions. A lot of people have actually asked two simple questions, and the first one is people seem to think that the governor and his deputy, since they're still in power, they actually have immunity. So why dismiss them when they're supposed not to be touched? And then another question is the fact that there are in other states, there are governors and their deputies who defected from one party to another, yet they actually had a different, court judgment. What makes this different?
Yeah, so I think the second issue is more of where the issue is, because of course the first one maybe is because this is a civil matter, not criminal, and that's why they have been taken to court. So they have immunity, but it's against criminal prosecution. But this second issue is what is puzzling to a lot of Nigerians. Like, as you said, as they say in proverb, one rule for the rich, another for the poor. So, and I think that is what the lawyers are trying to say, that, and it's because I think, lawyers are very clever people. They explore the lacuna, the gaps in the Constitution to protect or to punish people. So now, that is exactly what is happening in this situation, in which the Constitution is not very clear about what happens in these circumstances.
Yeah, exactly.
And therefore, the governors or their deputies can afford to switch parties, and because it's not clear cut.
And then what happens to others who have actually switched parties and they're still in power? What happens?
Well,
to them?
For the legislators, I think that one is clearer. So for them, because even recently about 5 lawmakers have been sacked by courts at different times from different states.
16 lawmakers, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So governors are the ones having their days, but as I think the senior lawyer Mike Ozokume said in this report, when the National Assembly really needs to clear this gray area. Yeah.
And then another question that has been asked, the votes, do they belong to the citizens or the party?
But what do you think? No, they say whether it belongs to the candidate or to the party.
To the party.
That's really naughty issue.
I think it belongs to the party, if you ask me.
Well, it's really...
Yeah, because they contest. If you contest under a particular party, people,
may not win.
No, like you contest under a particular party, and people, connect with that party. That's the reason why they go ahead to vote for you, because of the party and the belief that the candidate of that particular party, has something to offer. So if you move to another party you're taking the votes of the people, who had trust
to another
in
party.
you, to another
well, that
party
is what they call stolen mandates. That's what the politicians say. Like maybe any losing party, like for example, in the case of PDP losing maybe Cross River and Ebonyi and Zamfara, they say, oh, you are taking our mandate, you're stealing our mandate to another party. But also the other side will
You know,
will say
yeah,
that, oh, it's because we are the ones who stood for election, we campaigned, and we were voted. So it's really...
it's still us.
Yeah.
You still have to believe in us because we're moving to another party. Doesn't mean our mandate, what do you call it, our agenda has actually changed.
So I think it is just between this 6 and half a dozen, as they say.
Okay.
So with this, we move on to yet again political scene. All is now set for local government elections in Katsina State. This is as the State Independent Electoral Commission, KATSEC, distributed sensitive materials ahead of the election in 34 local government areas of the state. Abdullahi Yamadi has the report.
Distribution of the election materials commences at the Katsina State branch of the Central Bank of Nigeria. SIEC Chairman Katsina Ibrahim Bako says the materials will arrive the 34 local government areas on Sunday night. He is also given assurances that the sensitive materials distributed, which include ballot papers, inks, and result sheets, will be distributed to wards and polling units Monday morning.
Also are here witness this August occasion, so that we want this material to arrive at each local government in good time, so that we start this election as scheduled.
The chairman of the State Electoral Umpire also said non-sensitive materials have already been dispatched ahead of Monday's election. 12 political parties are participating in the local government election.
You know, we have about 4,902 polling units, and we have a minimum of 2 people at each polling unit. So here we are talking about roughly 10,000 people that have conducted this election.
Observers say the Monday's local government election in Katsina will serve as a litmus test to what the process will look like in 2023 general elections in the state. Abdullahi Ismayamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
Okay, so this is, just a reminder that 2023 elections is just around the corner, and I think in local government in Adamawa State,
the governors are trying to hold elections in their states. Usually it's a very clever way. By the time the main general elections are coming, and they try to put elected councils in place so that perhaps that gives them an edge in the main election.
Exactly.
So if you have elected local government chairman, they will try to reciprocate in the maybe 2023 election and all that. And Katsina is holding
to actually give them hope of winning.
Yes, exactly. So because like what happened yesterday in Adamawa, where they held a similar election, and
PDP won everything.
PDP won everything. So I don't know. I wonder sometimes, should we really continue having local government elections, because it's really ridiculous.
Well, I think if PDP actually won everything in Adamawa, do you think the citizens, that voted for that party, it means they actually want PDP back?
No, well, the funny part is, for me, is that just like APC is going to win, if I am to project, APC is going to win all the seats in Katsina in the election holding today. So it doesn't tell much about actually the electoral behavior in those states.
Well, let's wait and see that first. Let's see if the APC would be the ones winning.
Well, yeah, of course, I'm just talking from what do you call it, experience of other states happening around, because I know a lot of times experts and observers on a democratic process complain bitterly about how the democratization at state level is very slow, with a lot of times results coming out that are looking really somehow funny, with all respect to the states that have held election. So as you said, we wait to see. But more importantly, how will this robe on the 2023 election?
Yes, wait to see that.
Yeah.
Well, we'll take a quick break, and we'll find out what happened today in history, events that happened today in history. All right, so today is World Parkinson's Day. So every year on the 11th of April, World Parkinson's Day raises awareness for the progressive nervous system disorder, and it's also a day to help the general public understand the reality of the disease for those who have it. You know, you have a lot of...
Parkinson's is a really sad disease because, you know, these are the trembling that it causes and all
on
that
the hands
is,
and everything.
yeah, you see, it's really discomforting. Sometimes not only to the victim, but I mean to the affected person, but also to, you know, to loved ones and all that. And I think one person that I remember famously for having Parkinson's was Muhammad Ali.
Okay, yeah,
Yes,
as he began to age.
exactly. Usually it comes with age, oftentimes.
But it's actually rare that it's hereditary, by the way. You know, most times, you know, you don't get to, you know, inherit that particular disease. But in some cases, you know, it happens. So, you know, we actually need to, you know, like we said, not just for Parkinson's, but every other disease, you know, take care of ourselves.
Exactly.
You know, one would say...
You know, the body is just like the machine of the car or any other device that requires constant servicing, because...
Well, you'd actually say Muhammad Ali, who, you know, was a boxer, you know, and everything, he actually worked out, he took care of himself and everything. So why did he have Parkinson's?
Well,
could it be because he used his hands more often?
I don't know whether that is actually because of that. But as you said, you know, so many things can happen, and sometimes some of these diseases are not because of one's. Of course, there are what we call lifestyle diseases, but not all diseases are because of what you have done in your active age and all that. So, especially since it affects majorly the elderly, we hope that something is really done about it, because it is really a pitiful sight when somebody is affected by it.
Okay. All right. So in 1976, the Apple I computer created by Steve Wozniak is actually released today in history. In 1979, Tanzanian army captures Kampala, the capital of Uganda, forcing Ugandan dictator Idi Amin to flee into exile in Libya. In 2006, Iranian President Mahmoud, that's then Iranian President Ahmadinejad, announces that Iran has successfully enriched uranium. In 2012, billionaire Warren Buffett is diagnosed with prostate cancer as well. In 2013, 2 women are beheaded for sorcery in Bougainville, Papua New Guinea. And, you know, funny enough, stuff like this still happens.
Still happen,
even in Nigeria, you find, you know, a lot of jungle justice, people accusing older women of being witches, or even men, wizards and all that.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, Papua New Guinea is a tiny country in Southern America. You know, some of them, you know, just like blacks. I think there are people who had, you know, initially taken out of Africa as slaves and all that. And so their practices, their traditions are a lot like Africans. So this is not really surprising, especially seeing that this happened just in 2013. And as you said, it's something that is happening up to today in Nigeria.
Okay, now still in 2013, fossilized dinosaur eggs with embryos are discovered in China. Some would actually say, you know, it was probably staged or something, because dinosaurs have been extinct for a really, really long time. So how do you, but then in 2019, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange is forcibly removed from the Ecuadorian embassy in London by police and arrested on failure to appear in court on U.S. extradition charges.
Yeah, I remember Assange case, very dramatic. You know, there was a siege on the embassy for a long time, and no, he was up against very powerful forces around the world, and they ensured that he was extracted from that embassy. It was a long drama. You know, he was later accused of doing some unethical things from the embassy and all that, and Ecuadorian government came under very serious pressure forcing them to somehow let him out also, because, you know, Ecuador is a small country, and with all the pressure from more powerful nations like the United States and all that, they had to let him go, and it has it has affected so many things, especially in issues of advancing free speech, accountability. You know, there were a lot of pressure from campaigners around the world that he should let be and all that. But still, that didn't go almost anywhere. And so that's been it on Today in History. We have a short breather and we come back.
To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve their sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels, leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
Where you find that they look like the same.
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
All right, welcome back. It's time for the newspaper review on Daybreak right here on Trust TV. And we'll start with Daily Trust newspaper. And what's on the front page, stories on the front page, the lead here is on Kaduna attacks. Embassies, international organizations cut off northwest. And we have riders that say 41 women, 22 men, 5 kids held by train attackers. Released BOA MD relieves ordeal. VIPs expatriate among captives. Families jittery over kidnappers' silence. Soldiers, policemen take over Abuja Kaduna Road. Helicopter hovering. And below that particular story, we have bandits attack Fulani settlement, kill 2, abduct 3 on page 20. On page 21, we have taxi driver jailed 30 months for knocking down police officer. Ramadan, we're given food once a day. Kaduna IDPs cry out. And details of that story on page 6. If you check beside these stories, you find a pictorial of former President Goodluck Jonathan, who survived a ghastly auto crash on Wednesday last week and lost 2 of his police escorts, flanked by PDP National Chairman on his sympathy visits at his Maitama residence at the weekend. We also have at the top of the page, 2023, Oshibajo hosts governors declares today. Details of that on page 5. And we also have, despite restoration of FG's open treasury portal, financial records missing on page 3. And then many killed as bandits attack 4 Plateau villages. Details on page 6. These are some of the stories on Daily Trust newspaper.
Up next is a News Direct newspaper, which has the big story saying 2023 presidential election, hope rises for Southeast as Labour Party leaders lobby Peter Obi. Up up there, it says 2023 presidential race, Osibanjo, APC governors meet at VP's private residence. On blocking SIM cards require SIM linkage, says NCC. This is a story on page 2. Just beside that, another story says EFCC challenges court order to release Obiano's passport. Just below the page on News Direct, it's a story that says value-based policing, MPF partners Actors Guild for standardization of police portrayal, promotion of values. 2023, Nigeria's problems must be fixed with competent leadership, says Peter Obi. Then just beside that, another story says NSML gets first sub-Saharan African terminal environment certification. The last story on the front page of News Direct says Kenneth Opara emerges 22nd president of CIBN, that is Chartered Institute of Bankers in Nigeria. In the pictorial on that, on the front page of News Direct, shows the executive director, Mr. Adebanji Adeni, Group Chief Executive, Mr. Shegun Abaje, Chairman, Mr. Hakia Iniole, Non-Executive Director, Mrs. Catherine Ekulian, and Group Company Secretary and General Counsel, Mr. Ehi Obidede, all of Guarantee Trust Holding Company at their first annual general meeting in Lagos on Friday. These are the highlights from News Direct.
Okay, now talking about some of these stories, especially the ones we actually read on Daily Trust, the lead story about Kaduna attacks. Now, we are the ones actually clamoring for, investments from outside Nigeria. And with, the level of insecurity right now, the level of rampage right now, embassies and international organizations have actually cut off, from the Northwest. This is a really, really sad one. And a video was released yesterday of the abductees and the kidnappers' den, and it was really, really disheartening.
Yeah, it's harrowing. I saw the video last night. It's really discomforting. It shows and this was in an open field,
Yeah.
you could see, and you could see the victims very fatigued, tired, some of them lying down maybe with injuries because as the Daily Trust story shows, some of them were injured actually, and most of them were women, and some children.
Students as well.
Yes, a student spoke in the video. It's really harrowing, very, very pathetic. And as you said, this has a long way of affecting our economy, especially the issue of foreign direct investment or even internal investment, because if a business is in Lagos and wants to do some hinterland investment, it will be difficult to consider some of these places with this with the level of these attacks. And I don't know.
Yeah, you actually saw the abductors. I actually counted, the number that were the number of abductors from the video that were actually standing guard, and there were like 12 or 13.
Okay,
and
yes,
like
at the background.
Really, really young boys.
Yeah, they are young and well armed. You could see, and of course, from what we know of the attacks, these are people who came and. After detonating the explosive, they opened fire sporadically and that was how they killed a lot of people and wounded many others because it was just like a shoot aside,
Of course.
It's really, really worrisome.
Like one of the women who actually spoke said that it was needless. Like the attack was needless. And with this happening, the Kaduna State government saying they're not paying ransom for anybody. What happens to these people?
So that's it. And one thing is this particular set of people are not demanding for money. But that's one puzzle for me because they kept saying they have their demand that the government knows. So we don't actually know. I don't know whether you know what is the demand they're talking
between
about.
them and the government.
Yes, they said that. And, even the earlier video they released of the Bank of Agriculture MD, he was also saying the same thing, that government should reach out to them. They have an issue to sort out with government. So we don't know what issues is that. But maybe from my experience covering this conflict, I would say maybe it has to do with perhaps prisoner swap. Maybe there are some of their people arrested that they would want released in exchange of these hostages. But it's really harrowing, especially, you know, this is a very harsh weather. And fasting period, maybe a lot of them could be fasting. And, you know, in this heat, and even if it rains, you know, they will be in all those open spaces. It's just unfortunate.
We hope something is done to rescue them, you know, immediately.
Yeah, sure.
Because it's really, really sad. All right, still talking about insecurity, we also have, you know, many killed in Plateau State and also Fulani settlement, and even the Macban chairman that was killed
that was
recently.
killed in Gogolada. You see, this security problem, it gives me so much worry because, it's almost a new story every day. And not only a new story, stories, because like you said, on the front page of the Daily Trust, you will see like about 3 stories all about security situation in the country, and the killing of the Macban chairman, the attack in Gwagwalada, and this other one on a Fulani settlement in somewhere in Kaduna. They all show how pervasive this problem is, and how important it is to tackle, because if the more things fester, the more they become very difficult to address, because it's going to be.
And then we have so many presidential aspirants coming out to say that they're going to fight insecurity. Do they?
But have they told us how?
Exactly. But do they even have to be president before they actually fight insecurity, especially in these states?
Well, you know, they said the box stopped on the president's desk, so maybe that's why everyone is campaigning with that, to say that if they are elected, they will do this and that. But my own concern is we need to know how you are going to tackle this insecurity. It's not just empty talk to just say, I'm going to tackle it. I want to ensure that this has not happened. So we have to do something.
All right, so let's move on to the next paper, which is Leadership newspaper. And we have the lead story here on 2023. Finally, Oshibajo joins presidential race, raising stake to new level. Details of that on page 4. VP to ride on deep bonds, relationships with state governors, astute politicians across party divides, hosts APC governors to iftar at his Aguda residence. Just above that page, that particular story, we have burial program for leadership founding chairman's mother starts today. Beside that story, we have troops kill 18 ISWAP terrorists in Lake Chad Basin. 2023, Jonathan's Kingsman warn against propaganda over ex-president's tenure. We also have PwC rates e-Naira first in global digital currency index. If you come to the top there, you have PMB, governors rejoice with Longotia at 65. Bandits kill Mieta Allah chairman, 4 others in the FCT. And Infracorp begins operation with 163 billion naira investment in transport logistics. All right, now talking about Oshibajo declaring, you know, a lot of people are actually looking forward to him, you know, being president. Not even just declaring, being president, because I remember a while back there was a poster of him pasted on a wall somewhere abroad, and him as the president and Zulum as the vice president.
Oh yeah, there was that poster for a long time, and I think they had to do a disclaimer kind of, because it was much earlier, I think last year.
Hopeful citizens.
Exactly, there are, you know, a lot of that, but also some people would tell you that I mean, for the critics of the government who are maybe especially opposition members or other Nigerians who are not happy with the government, they will tell you that he is part of the maze, if it is maze, you know, in quotes, because they will feel as that the vice president, he also has like almost equal stake in the, running the affairs of the country with the president. But I think one important thing, it is going to help, I mean, not help, so to say, but it is going to really up the stake for the scene. And I think that's what the leadership story is saying, that it has
Risen
changed the
to
dimension,
new level.
and that's also the lead story for the Nation newspaper, our
Oh.
next paper to review this morning,
Okay.
which says Oshibanjo to APC governors, I'm running for president, says he has informed Buhari, vice president, to declare today. And on the top of the page, Nigeria's COVID-19 cases rise by 45%. Oh, Husseina, I thought COVID-19 is gone, but they are saying it is even increasing by 45%.
Yeah, I think all the measures being taken have actually reduced, but it doesn't mean it's not still there.
Yeah, but to say that it is increasing by 45%, well, it's all for us all to be more careful because, you know, if it is still there, it means that we are still vulnerable. And the next story there says 37 billion National Assembly renovation begins. Contractors mobilize. Akeredolu's wives guns for APC senatorial ticket. That is a story on page 7 of the Nation. Then the next story just below that says why PDP should not abandon zoning by George. I think that should be Olabode George, the Lagos PDP chieftain. Just below the masthead of the Nation in red is the story that says NDLEA intercepts 101 parcel of cocaine in children Dubai at Lagos airport. Below that is another story says federal government to raise 700 billion for pension liabilities. Civil servants, policemen targeted. Still on the Nation, below the lead story is a story that says Electoral Act 8412, that is section 84 subsection 12, that is the contentious section of the Electoral Act. Appeal code stops Malami. PDP gets nod to appeal Umahi to appeal Umahia ruling. Beside that is another story that says 2023 Southern PDP aspirants clash with Southeast governors. Angim or be angry with Epeazu Ugwai over Wiki. Nigerians go through pens for registration. That is, I think, the NIN registration, which is a very contentious issue, especially with the, with the blockage of so many lines. I hope yours is not blocked.
No, I've registered already. But you also have a
good.
lot of people saying they haven't registered and their cards or their SIMs have not been blocked.
Yes, they are still
as well,
working.
too.
That's true. Sometimes you just can't explain some of these technology things, and I just hope that there is no sabotage somewhere because
Hopefully.
with the blocking of the line, the telecoms are going to lose big time. Then because it will mean that they have to. They are losing customers.
Exactly.
So I would just hope there is nothing like that. Yeah. So that's it for the Nation newspaper this morning.
All right. With that, we'll move on to Daily Times. And we have the lead story there, boldly written, 2023, why PDP must return to power, says IU. And we also have writers that says, George wants party, says ignoring zoning will spell doom for PDP. Urges PDP national chairman to revisit states Congress crisis. All right, we also have at the top there, leadership failure is Nigeria's biggest problem, says Peter Obi. And, you have a pictorial there of Technical Officer Reproductive Health, World Health Organization, Dr. Bosede Ezekwe, and wife of Niger State Governor Dr. Amina Abubakar Bello, Director of Consultant Obstetrician and Gynecologist Professor Hadiza Galadanchi, and wife of former Senate President Toyin Salaki during the launching of a first use of heat-stable caprotocin in Nigeria and Sub-Saharan Africa in Abuja at the weekend. And I think these are some of the stories on a Daily Times newspaper.
So with that, we wrap up this section of the newspaper review, but we'll come back to you later with more detailed review of the newspapers this morning, as we'll be joined by the Deputy President of the Nigerian Guild of Editors, Ali M. Ali. Now we move on to bring you. We now move on to bring you an episode of our program on how Nigerians survive in this economy. Now, keep a watch on this episode of My Daily Hustle.
My name is Lucky Ayasi. I'm a fashion designer, though I'm a journalist by profession turned fashion designer. I'm from Edo State. I reside in Nasarawa State, Akwanga to be precise. But currently, my profession, I'm working in Mina, Niger State. My journey in fashion designing, I think it started right from small, though I was not conscious of it. I was always very particular about what I put on. So I think it started from when I was small, but officially it started after I graduated from school. After my compulsory 1-year youth service, I was pushed into the labor market. And when I entered the labor market, when we were in school, they were telling us that, unemployment, it's hard to get a job and everything. So we did not actually realize how real it was till when we actually entered. So when I entered the labor market, just like your average graduate, I was up and about looking for a job with my CV. I went to Abuja, I went to Punch newspaper, actually went to Daily Trust, I submitted my CV. And I was waiting for the call, but that call did not come. So I think the journey started when I actually decided to go to Mina, because I graduated from Federal Polytechnic Bida, close to Mina. So I wanted to go and process my original results. So when I went to my school, they told me I had to wait for like a week. So I decided to stay back in Mina and wait for the results. While I was in Mina, I was staying with a friend. And I now thought, instead of going back to Akwanga where I reside, why not look for something to do? So in the process, I actually got employed as a private school teacher. I was a teacher in a private school. I taught English and literature. While I was there, I now realized something. I was being paid 20,000 naira per month. And I realized before my salary comes, I would have started calling some of my friends back in Akwanga, telling them to borrow me money. Several times I called a very close friend of mine. I needed money to buy food. She sent 5,000 naira. So I realized the pattern. Before I get paid, I was already in debt. And I did not like that situation. I think the real game changer came for me when I was in my room sitting one day, and there was a neighbor of mine. He was also a teacher, an older man. He was talking to his wife and quarreling with his wife, and they were arguing about money. And I was like, how will I continue living like this? This is a job I'm doing, and before they get to the end of the month, I'm already looking for somebody to borrow me money. I was not actually happy with the situation. So I now thought, what is it that I can do? What value can I actually give that I'll get paid for? What is my passion? What is it that I love? So I was now thinking, and I prayed over it. And while I was praying, I was juggling between fashion designing and carpentry. So furniture making. So I was juggling. I actually also considered them solar installation of solar panels. So there were some ideas in my head. So I prayed over it, and when God just revealed that my path is geared towards fashion designing. I spoke to my pastor, they made some research, and long story short, I actually enrolled here, and it's been a journey, a wonderful journey. Normally, the society often dictates to us what paths we have to follow. And back then, there was this narrative that the future is in renewable energy. That's the future, since epileptic power supply in the country. So people were saying, if you go into solar, you're making a lot of money. Some people were saying in carpentry, carpenters and furniture makers are making quite a sum, while others are saying fashion designing. So then what was actually propelling me then was money. What area will I go into that will actually fetch money? Then I got to realize it's not just all about the money. It's what I'm actually interested in, what I'm passionate, what I love doing. So I now thought, I reflected, I was like, furniture making. If I go into furniture making, is this something I love doing? Is this something I'll love doing even if I don't get paid for it? I reflected and I didn't think so. I now reflected on solar energy. I was like, do I actually love installing solar panel, or is it just something I want to go into for the money, just to make it? I now reflected, I was like, no. So I prayed over it, and I got to realize that this fashion thing, because even before I got into fashion designing, I love outfits, like especially traditional attires, like what I'm wearing right now. So I loved to, my tailors they were making money off me, literally. So I was like, instead of me paying them to actually sew for me, why don't I actually go into it myself and actually enjoy the process at the same time, get paid for it? So that was what propelled me. Fashion is a very interesting occupation. It's very interesting in the sense that it's not a straitjacket occupation where they say you must do this, you must do that, you must follow this, you must follow that. It's very flexible. One thing I love about fashion designing is you can change the narrative. If they say, if you want to make an outfit, for instance, you can decide to make the sleeve a certain length. You can decide to make the pocket design in a certain way, to just your personality, to your taste. So there's no rigid rule. So it's a very creative work, in the sense that you can get inspired from different things, different ways, and different experiences.
You know, before you cut any style, the first thing to do is to determine the quantity of fabric that you need for such style. From the first day Lucky joined this academy, it was really amazing, because I see the passion, I see the desire. At the end of the day, I didn't just consider him as somebody who I'm training, but I consider him as my personal PA. In fact, he follows every move. He's always interested in seeing whatever I'm doing. He never wants to miss any class at all. And because he has passion for it, one good thing about him is he always wants to learn ahead. Whenever we have a class, Lucky will go online, browse, and even come back to me and show me a video that, Oga, this is what I saw. I just see exactly what you are doing. But I think other people are also doing this method. So when I see, I say, Lucky, I like the way you are going about this. I really want you to go on with this.
When it comes to cutting, I think I've gotten to that professional state, and it didn't just happen. It took consistency, sleepless nights, online videos, YouTube, tutorial videos, practice, pieces. Sometimes I have to get lining so that I will cut and practice. So it took a hell lot of sacrifice. Before I could actually beat my chest and say I am very good at cutting, it took almost a year plus. So if for that potential fashion designer who wants to go into fashion and he thinks maybe after 2 weeks or 3 weeks he will know everything about fashion, cutting and everything, it's a lie. It takes time and it takes sacrifice. Fashion is a very complex skill. Even aside cutting, even sewing, There are instances where there was a time I got work from a customer. He gave me fabric. I attempted cutting on my own. I actually destroyed the fabric because I didn't get the measurement right. I had to go to the market and get a new fabric. And this is a fabric I got almost close to 10,000 naira. I had to buy it again because I destroyed the initial fabric he gave me. So I had to go to the market, get a new fabric, and bring it to my boss to help me with the cutting. As a fashion designer, in the next couple of years, I plan to have a fashion house, like a fashion house. Now we're currently running on a shop level. I believe we can go global more than that. And specifically, I want to have a fashion house with hundreds, if not thousands of tailors working for me. So quality clothing, quality designs, quality work, and you get your prompt response. And we'll have branches in different states. So I think we want to go national, if not international. So I think that's the dream. In a couple of years, by God's grace, I believe I'm going to achieve it.
This is actually the sad reality of our economy. You know, you go to school for 4 years or even more, and then you come out doing something totally different
from what you study.
Exactly. Students are advised to make sure they have skills, you know, even while they're in school. I mean, just take a look at the ASU strike. You go to school, you don't even get a job. You don't even get a job. So the skills.
It's even because of that uncertainty that the National Universities Commission introduced entrepreneurship as a course for all undergraduates now.
That's actually the best thing.
Yeah, it's good because it's good to prepare the minds of the young ones.
You might not get a job. The rate of unemployment is high. So in case you don't get a job, at least you have something to fall back to. Yes. All right, with that, we'll take a quick breather and we'll be right back. Do stick around. Good morning and welcome to Daybreak on Trust TV. Today is the 11th day in the month of April 2022. I'm Dashan Husseina Usman. Thanks for joining us.
It is a beautiful morning indeed in Abuja. Good morning and thanks for joining us. I am Abdulaziz.
For headlines at this hour, 2 killed, houses burnt in bandits' attack in Ade village in Kaduna State.
Bandits invade Gwagwalada Area Council, kill Makban chairman.
Serap gives federal government 48 hours to unblock unregistered lines. And now, the news and details.
Bandits have invaded Gwagwalada Area Council of Abuja and shot dead the chairman of Mieti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria, Makban, in the council, Adamu Aliyu. Aliyu was said to have been killed alongside 4 others near Daku village in Dobi ward of the council on Thursday. Secretary of Makban, Mohammed Osman, who confirmed the incident on Sunday, said 3 persons were abducted while 3 others who sustained gunshot wounds are receiving treatment at the University of Abuja Teaching Hospital in Gwagwalada. He said the late Makban chairman was killed by bandits who emerged from the bush and opened fire on their vehicle while they were returning from Izom Market in nearby Niger State. He said the deceased corpses had been buried according to Islamic rites. The chairman of Gwagwalada Area Council, Alhaji Adamu Mustafa, confirmed the incident to our reporter.
All right, moving on. Bandits have attacked a day village of Kutura Station in Tantatu ward of Kajuru local government area of Kaduna State, killing 2 indigents of the community and burning down houses. One of the male victims had his head and hands chopped off after he was killed by the bandits during the attack. The attack is yet to be confirmed by the police or Kaduna State government, but a former chairman of Kajuru local government area told Channels TV that the bandits first attacked some of the adjoining communities on Tuesday, burning down houses and shooting sporadically within the community. He said that the bandits later returned to Ade community, also under Kutura station on Friday in the afternoon, and carried similar attacks and in the process shot 2 persons to death.
The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has issued a 48-hour ultimatum to federal government to unblock millions of unregistered SIMs. Last week, the federal government directed telecommunication companies in the country to bar all outgoing calls on subscriber identity modules, SIMs, not yet registered and linked with the National Identification Number, NIN, by users. While reacting to the ban via a statement issued on Sunday, SERAP asked President Buhari to direct the Minister of Communication and Digital Economy, Issa Pantami, and the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, to immediately reverse the apparently unlawful decision to block over 72 million active telecommunications subscribers from making calls on their SIMs. While noting that the decision will dissuade the free expression of ideas and information, SERAP argued that the move is inconsistent and incompatible with the country's international legal obligations to respect, protect, promote, and facilitate economic and social rights.
And with that, we wrap up the news highlights. But the president of the Senate, Senator Ahmed Lawan, has urged government at all levels to be proactive and prevent drug and substance abuse by the youth. He made the appeal at the foundation laying ceremony of the Drug and Substance Abuse Rehabilitation Center at the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital in Budo, Egba, Kwara State. The report.
Acknowledged that the country is challenged by drug and substance abuse and called for urgent steps to be taken to address the challenge.
The youth in any nation are the leaders of tomorrow, and you need to preserve, skill the youth for them to be leaders tomorrow. Today is a fact that across the country we are challenged as a people, as a nation, by substance and drug abuse. Some of them that fall victims, some of our youth, need to be rehabilitated. But I want to take the opportunity here to appeal to all of us in leadership positions at all levels of government, federal, state, and local government, to ensure that we are proactive, that we make it difficult for drugs and substance to be available for them to be abused, that we protect our youth, because by protecting them, we are protecting our tomorrow, we are protecting the development of our nation. And therefore, this particular project is one sure way of ensuring that those that are fallen victims would have a rehabilitation center to go to for rehabilitation.
The acting medical director of the hospital explains the steps to be taken to avoid drugs abuse.
The causes of mental disorders are numerous and are mainly, I can say, genetic and environmental. So genetic, if somebody has the gene or is predisposed to having a mental disorder, he has a family history of mental disorder, he has the gene within him that predisposes him, or a childhood conditions, adverse childhood conditions that can predispose to mental health disorder later in life, the person can have it. Of course, it is not everybody that is predisposed that eventually come out with mental disorders. Environmental conditions, facilitated by substance use disorders, infections, etc., can bring about a mental health condition. Of course, the etiology will now suggest how to prevent such. Proper home, proper child upbringing, and selection of who you get married to because that will dilute, in order to dilute the genetic influence on the children that would eventually be born. But most importantly, reduction in adverse conditions in the environment, such as don't smoke, don't take marijuana, that's cannabis, don't use other substances of abuse that can damage the brain and precipitate mental health condition. If there's an infection, that should be in childhood, that should be promptly treated. If there's infection later in life, that should be promptly treated. Nutrition conditions should be taken care of so that eventually one will not have mental disorders later in life.
A coalition of non-governmental organizations in Zamfara State has called on the federal and state governments to officially establish internally displaced persons IDPs camps in the state to protect the displaced persons, to protect persons displaced by insecurity in the state and their women, especially women and children. The chairman of the coalition, Ambassador Ibrahim Tudu, who made the call in an exclusive interview with Trust Television, said the plight of the internally displaced persons in Zamfara State was worsening. The reports.
The camp director said already 5 have given birth in the camp, most of those who are affected by trauma, hypertension, high blood pressure and malaria. Salegiwa explained that out of the number, 10 have been admitted for intensive medical care, while others could not be taken to hospital due to shortage of funds. He explained that in the Lale Hayinkanwa villages, many have been orphaned and widowed following the deaths of their husbands and fathers. Giwa explained that in the Lale village, 16 persons were killed leaving behind 30 wives and 86 children, while in Beriberi, 10 men have been killed who had a total of 17 wives with 80 children, who are now orphans. According to the camp director in Hayinkanwa village, 8 people have been killed, leaving behind 16 wives and 66 children, while in Anguar Baku, a total of 5 males lost their lives to the bandits and left behind 10 wives with 66 children. He, however, stated that the local government council and some other voluntary donors helped in running the camp, while awaiting the State Emergency Management Agency, SEMA, for further assistance.
Here I have more than 300 people that we are sleeping here with them. And there are some that are inside town. They used to come in the morning and then during the night after we finish our ta'alim, because we are doing ta'alim from 9:30 to 11:30 here in the square Islamic lecture, because we are in the month of Ramadan together with them. And some of them are not sleeping here because they have houses, they rent houses inside town, and some people give them free of charge. And they have relatives, they have relatives that are staying there with them. But here in our camp, we have almost 300 people that we are sleeping with them. Most of them are females and children and old people, because the males that are here are not much. Our security is 100% because we are near the police station here. The DPO of your local government is doing his best. You're the bishop. SP Muhammad Bashir Mada, he's doing his best because he used to send policemen to sleep with us here. It is the local government chairman that supply food for them in the initial stage.
My name is Aisha Abdullahi from Beriberi. We are here because we were forced to flee our homes after bandits invaded our village. We have been here for about 2 weeks. Our husbands and fathers were killed. They burnt our property. Now we are dependent on people to feed. My name is Aminatu. We were chased from our homes by bandits. They killed about 14 people. They burnt our houses. We want the government to come to our aid and secure our villages. My husband married 3 of us. Now he has been kidnapped. The bandits abducted him, took our valuables, and now we have no place to go.
necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
Good morning and thanks for staying with us. It is now time for the newspaper review and for us to give you in-depth analysis on what is happening in the papers today. And to do this, we have Deputy President, Nigerian Guild of Editors, Ali M. Ali, joining us for more detailed review of today's front pages. Good morning and
good
welcome
morning. It's
to
good to be here.
Daybreak.
Good morning.
Good morning
and good to have you.
Yeah, good to be here.
All right, so let's start with the lead story on Daily Trust newspaper on Kaduna attacks and embassies, international organizations, cutting off the Northwest. What's your take on this?
Well, it's not surprising that such organization and embassies, clearly the Northwest as it is now, is, if you like, more or less like the Northeast is the theater of war. What's happening in the Northwest presently is like an island, isolated, and then also ravaged by plethora of crisis. First, there is the insecurity, which has devastated that region. And then there is also crushing poverty, if you like. Most of the dwellers of that sub-region are farmers, and most of them subsistent farmers, because of the raging insecurity there. That's why some experts are predicting a possible famine, because farmers can't go to farm because of insecurity. And now with the international agencies at a time like this, cutting off the Northwest. And the Northwest domicile the most registered voters, domicile the most population. If you take the numerical strength of the population of the Northwest vis-a-vis other regions of the country, then you know that is a terrible thing. So it's understandable if this foreign embassy, international agencies, because they don't feel safe to move from Kaduna, from Abuja to just next door neighbor Kaduna, less than 200 kilometers. Now is perhaps going to, if you like, battlefront. It's a lot easier, perhaps some will say, to navigate the war-ravaged Ukraine than to travel from Kaduna to from Abuja to Kaduna for these reasons I've listed. So it's understandable. Ordinarily, foreign embassies, missions, they give in their routine advisory, security advisory, even in Abuja, they have, in a way,
classify
Abuja as
classify areas according
precisely
to
classify areas, in where is, if you go beyond these areas, you are on your own, literally. And Abuja is a 3 concentric cycle. From cycle A to B is safe. From B to C, it's a bit dangerous, but from C upwards. And this is between Asokoro or Asokoro to maybe, I think, up to Bega. Is about then from then to the national, to the stadium. Well, that's the stadium. That's section A. First cycle from the national stadium to airport. That is cycle B. And then above, from the airport outwards, you are on your own. It's a very dangerous place. And that's why you rarely see foreign mission or foreign embassies having their, rarely you see them outside this, unless they are traveling out of the country. So if the Northwest now totally cut off, don't forget the Northwest is the constituency of the president himself. And we expect that when the president retires from office by 2023, his personal residence is in Kaduna, and then his homestay is Katsina. Already, most of the villages, local government, routinely sacked by bandits. So it's really terrible, and it's not going to be a very flattering legacy.
You made mention that anything above or outside the airport, you are on your own for foreign missions.
Yes.
And then there are attacks, including the latest one in where chairman of Meti Allah was killed in Gwagwalada. How safe is Abuja itself?
No,
with all these things?
Abuja is like the Northwest. It's just that we're still playing ostrich. Abuja right now is assailed. It's just, we don't know when they will strike. If you notice that this concentric cycle I listed, Don't forget, late last year, when bandits or marauders, I don't know what level you give them, they just walk into University of Abuja, literally carted away. Let me use that like property. Just move some lecturers, senior lecturers, kidnap. The following day, they return again. And then nothing happened. And you see, the thing is, people often say there is the failure of intelligence. No, I don't think so. Because the intelligence community, I know a pretty number of intelligence operative. Sometimes these things, you don't need any special training to know that, look, it's just a matter of time. When something happens once, then you know it's likely to be repeated, especially if there are security breaches. This has happened routinely. They become routine now. People don't, just yesterday that Nigeria was classified ahead of Iraq, the most dangerous place to be. Iraq is war-ravaged, civil war going on there. What about us? And when we say Nigeria is a failed state, people think we're alarmist. But look at it. All the indices of a failed state are manifest in
But why do you think
country.
nothing is actually being done, or we're not seeing, results?
Well, the thing is, the most obvious reason is that there is no political will. That's the most obvious reason. On the surface, that's what I would say. As a citizen who should be protected by government, I would say the political will is simply not there. Why? Because constitutionally speaking, the primary purpose of government is the protection of life and property. Life and property. And you see, that's the primary duty of government. The primary purpose of government, constitutionally speaking, is to protect life and property. And then you see life, property being destroyed. And then nobody takes responsibility. Nobody is being asked to leave their office. Nobody is quitted. Nobody is fired. And then life goes on. Then you know there is no political will. And then when people make excuses, no, we don't. That's why in 2015, the underperforming government under PDP was dislodged by Nigerians because the APC promised in several of their campaign promises that, look, three-pronged promises. First, they're going to improve security, create employment, and then the third one is
fight corruption.
Fight corruption. And then now the seventh year now, if you put the government, the pledges or the promises, campaign promises, which you look at them, which you index them, then you say, how do you rate them on a scale of 1 to 10? A lot of Nigeria will say it's below average. Because why? For all this reason we've listed. The value of the nation's currency has literally gone haywire. It almost, it's unimaginable. In 2015, the value of the naira, if you look at it, was slightly 3 times as it is now. In 2015, it was 200 to the dollar. But now it's nearly 600 to the dollar. And then that is one. Unemployment has risen because most small-scale industries have shut down because of energy crisis. Exactly. Now the cost of energy is horrendous. And then look at the national energy crisis. The national grid, like insecurity, collapses every now and again. And so far, those started with the responsibility of some of these promises, they've not actualized it, and they're not being fired.
But sir, you said there is no political will, but every now and then when there is a major attack, we receive statements from the presidency condemning the attacks and directing the military to go after these attackers, apprehend them, bring this to an end. What mode of political will do you, that we need more than this?
I think there is an editorial by the Daily Trust about presidential directives which have become empty. Because you do that, it's like there's a template. There's an attack, then we just look at the template, we rewrite the date, make it more contemporary, then you release, then you go to sleep. And then people, in the imagination of those who issue such releases, that we live happily ever after. Nobody walks that talk. So, like the Trust editorial observed last week, these are empty presidential directives. We expect that if you are, as an editor now, as an anchor, what we do in newsroom now, we give every other person has certain responsibilities. If you fail to deliver, if you miss a story, there is a punishment. If and you know the routine.
Definitely.
But then people are given certain. I mean, what are the key performance indicators? They're not being met, and then the person responsible there, is sitting pretty and making excuses. One of such lame excuses when the train attack happened was that the certain security equipment was not given, money was not given, and that's why that happened. A lot of people describe that as very heartbreaking, that they're actually not in, how can you invest such colossal amount of money on infrastructure and then you fail to police that corridor? And you know pretty well that it was just a matter of time that something on that scale will happen, because the first time it happened on a minor scale, people predicted that someday these people are testing the microphone. It will be a matter of time before they come full scale. And then it came to pass that actually that thing was going to happen. There was intelligence, credible intelligence for an action to happen. You need to have that credible insight for an action to happen. And that was provided. But the authorities somehow were lackadaisical in executing that.
Now, the first time, the train attack, not an attack, the attempted, attack actually happened.
The breach, the first time.
Yes, the first time. There were helicopters, hovering around every trip. And now, after this particular attack, we have soldiers, policemen taking over Abuja, Kaduna Road, and helicopters hovering. But for how long will this last?
You see, this is the thing. Sometimes, I remember a couple of years ago, one of the that armed robbers, I'm trying to recall the campaign then, they are not spirit. You see them, they are people like you and I. Bandits and criminals, insurgents, they are not spirit. When they do this, that's why you need credible intelligence community. What happened to the nation's intelligence community? One of the most effective you can find on the West African sub-region. The Nigerian intelligence community. It's not as if they're not up and about. Like, for example, you don't need such apparent, obvious, like copters flying, hoovering. It's way too expensive to do that.
But do you think informants actually make it difficult for, the government to act on the intelligence?
You mean informants?
Yes, those who inform the bandits. The bandits.
Yeah, but then that's why the government should have also informants. And this thing is no rocket science. When you discuss security, sometimes one cannot help but be very passionate about it because it involves all of us. You don't know when some of us fly that route. Every now and again, we are compelled to move that. If you are not flying, you must go through that route. And naturally, when you're discussing the several breaches on that route, you become very passionate. Now, if you look at it, yes, the informants, both sides, and you see, when you want to deal with something, this did not happen or did not start yesterday or last week or last year. It has been on for several years. By now, we had expected that the Nigerian intelligence community would have developed a framework to detect crime, infiltrate these organizations, or the insurgents cycle, terrorist cycle, bandit cycle, have their own men there, be part of the group. But clearly, and I'm sure a lot of resources have been devoted. If you look at the national parliament, this debate has been on. That look, all monies, all allocated for security are 100% granted, given. But then what happened? That is the question. What happened? Is it that the Nigerian intelligence community is not up and about, which I doubt very much, or is it that there is a rogue section of it? A rogue section working hand in glove, which some of the bandits in past revelations have revealed that, look, there are people in government who are supporting us. And then let me take you back, way back in history, under PDP. There was a time it couldn't have been a Freudian slip on the part of the former president, Goodluck Jonathan. He said, look, when you're dealing with insurgents, you don't know there are even insurgents in the villa. He said, even Boko Haram, he said so. So how dicey it is. When this government came, especially the commander-in-chief, he came in highly rated, being an ex-general who has fought civil war, who has proved his mettle. So it was expected that it was just a matter of time before any security breach, maybe not totally banished from the shores of this country, but at least such daring exploit like the train attack wouldn't have happened. And the APC sold this dummy to all of us. Like, we have a battle-tested general who has fought in the Civil War as a young officer who has made name, you know, as very daring, very bold, very brave. And then his record as military head of state, also very sterling record, unassailable. And then you have a deputy, a vice president, who is also a prayer warrior, is from the pulpit, a clergy, a known man of God. So these two gentlemen now, a battle-tested general and a prayerful vice president, who from the clergy, who operating from the pulpit, and also an intellectual, the combination of this would defeat insecurity, would banish insurgency in the land. But what happened 7 years down the road? Normally, often the government defenders will say, look, when we took, and we're tired of this red herring, that when we took over in 2015, several local governments, there's always been their
template.
Precisely, that when we took over, a lot of local government were under the control of insurgents. Last year, late last year, Governor Zulum said, look, up to that moment, there are certain local government under the control of Boko Haram. And then nothing is happening. Of course, the media, we've done what we could beyond that, and some of us have been labeled as unnecessary, probably working for the opposition. Every now and again, you raise any patriotic fear, you express any reservation, then you are labeled. But then, you see, all of us, like we say, all of us, he who wears the shoes, knows where it's pinched the most. So the bottom line is that, yes, there is lack of political will to execute this, or I just read somewhere, this may sound very unkind, but I just read somewhere that an army of lions led by a sheep will be defeated by an army of sheep led by a lion. This is the point I'm saying to say. If you have an absentee political authority, there is not just there. You expect that. And then don't forget also the interagency rivalry, which has not been checked. Before the former service chiefs were sacked, it was so apparent there was lack of coordination between the Air Force and the Nigerian Army.
Well, that's been really, steamy conversation around politics, because it's something that is, as you said, very passionate. We are all passionate about it. But let's move into a more lighter issue of politics, and we move on to the leadership newspapers, which, like many other papers today, reports that the presidential declaration of the Vice President Yomi Oshibanjo. He's throwing his hat in the ring. What do you think that now that the Vice President has actually, as of this morning, released a video in which he's officially announcing his declaration to contest the next election? What do you make of it?
Well, you expect that a number two will want to be number one. So it's a natural progression of aspiration. When you are number two, Deputy General Editor, one day you want to be the Editor General. This is a natural thing. And I think it's welcome. The more, the merrier. And he wouldn't have done that if there was no consultation with his boss. Really. And you see in the last 7 years, Osibanjo has been a very loyal deputy. Notwithstanding, of course, in any court, especially a presidential one for that, you know there will be a lot of jostling for power. People want to access power or even annex power. So we saw, a lot of people saw it coming, that it was just a matter of time before the vice president throws his hat into the ring. A couple of weeks ago, a month ago, the BBC did an extensive story about emerging billboard in Abuja and elsewhere, which the office of the vice president expectedly denied that it had no knowledge of that. But we know that if it walks like a dog, quacks like a dog, it's a dog. So it was just a matter of time that we know the vice president would throw in his hat into the ring. So it's welcome, the more the merrier. But also his presidential aspiration has thrown up a lot of scenarios, one of which is the imminent clash between him and his political, whether we admit it or not, mentor or even godfather, Bola Tinubu. And Bola Tinubu has made no bones about his blinding ambition to be number one president, and that he admitted himself that it's a lifelong ambition. How that is going to pan out, especially in the Southwest. It's going to be an interesting battle. But like I said, I see Osibanjo wouldn't have taken this very calculated risks without the blessing of his boss. So yes, it's welcome, and I think Osibanjo perhaps is about the right man for the job if you want continuity.
But those Nigerians want continuity.
Yeah, that's the question. It's up to Nigerians because Nigerians, when they sought for change 7 years ago, in 2015, they said they didn't want continuity.
Yeah.
Because the continuity that would have meant, but the underperformance of the PDP at the time. And that's why, and then APC cashed in on the weaknesses of the PDP. But 7 years down the road, I see also APC treating the part of PDP in more ways than one. APC, PDP, some pundits have said there are two sides of the same coin. They are the same Nigerians, the same political environment. Perhaps the only change, the difference was before 2015, the cast iron reputation of Buhari, President Buhari. Buhari, more than any element, was the change in the APC. The APC, don't forget, is an amalgam of so many political leanings, just the same way that PDP was. PDP in 1998, when it came into business, when it opened shop to wrestle power from the departing military, was conceived as a behemoth, an umbrella body, and that's why the umbrella, left-wing and right-wing element, even middle-of-the-road kind of elements coalesce into the PDP. If you remember, there were left-wingers, progressives, the likes of Abubakar Rimi Solomon La, the pioneer chairman, and then you have ultra-right wingers like late Ademuchu Roma coming together to form the PDP. And the express intention was to chase out the military, to keep the military in barrack, in check. And the PDP did that admirably well. For the first 7-8 years, under another retired military, the PDP actually, and till this day, it provided some form of stability, and the idea of a military takeover completely banished from the thought process of most people who are given to that kind of change of government. Now, the APC came also when, at a point, the PDP became the military, actually. Lack of internal democracy, I've always said that. The PDP became a problem. No internal democracy, but then the PDP, even then, under Obasanjo, had a way of resolving internal crisis. The internal conflict resolution mechanism of the PDP was superb. Every now and again, when there is any rebellion, they've had a way of dealing with that and then accommodating various interests and turning it into a family affair. Unfortunately, the APC does not have that mechanism. APC, regrettably, I must say this, unlike the PDP, under PDP, there was one single national leader, the president. Under PDP, under APC, the president is different and the national leader is different. What does that make? Because there is, you will say, shared, and then if there is crisis, people go to the national leader, and that's the perception out there.
But so, coming back to the vice president's declaration, would we say, looking at the other persons who have already declared, how bright are his chances? Or dim? Let me. How dim or how bright?
Well, you see, his chances are very bright if you look at, depending on what mantra they're going to fly with, and that is it continuity? Are you going to? If it's continuity, then you know that yes. But then you see, like I said, in any court, there are also elements who are antagonistic to the vice president. And there has been this silent tussle for power among elements surrounding the president and the vice president. And this tussle, it has happened before. Notwithstanding the trust the vice president probably enjoys from his principal. And if you recall, instances where he has handed over, transmitted, officially handed over responsibilities to him when he went on either medical vacation, and so many instances where he has represented the president, especially between the period of 2015 to 2019.
And in that case, some people actually, I don't know if you agree with them, but some people actually seem to think the vice president will do a better job if he's in power, saying that he was actually muzzled, or he's being muzzled as the vice president.
Yeah, well, for so many reasons, perhaps. First, age is on his side. And then he's more contemporary. being a lawyer. Or like the president, whether we admit it or not, the president, well, some people will say he is so yesterday. Let me use the language of young people now. You understand? Compared to the vice president. But it has worked very well for the two, for the two. You know, you need the wisdom of the old and the energy of the young to have a government that would almost, elsewhere, you've seen about the chances of the president. I've seen several instances in other climes where the number two succeeded number one. Joe Biden is an example. But in the case of Joe Biden and Obama, though there was a 4-year gap, it's kind of a bit different because Obama was younger, he was the president, and Biden was way older than him. But in this instance, the president is way older than the vice president. But then it has worked out perfectly well for the Americans. Elsewhere, Thabo Mbeki succeeded a much older what's his name again? This late great African.
Yeah, Mandela.
Mandela. He succeeded Mandela. And Mandela served only one time, just in recognition of his age at the time. And I've seen so many at the even micro level, there are deputies who succeeded governors. But whether it has worked out in the final analysis, Kano is an example. Before then, Zamfara also as an example, Shinkafi succeeded Yerima Bakura. But then eventually they fell out, just like what has happened in Kano. So yes, the vice president has an advantage. If on a 100-meter dash, he's already 30 meters or 20 meters ahead. He knows the workings of government, and he knows how, well, if you like, whatever project started or whatever problem there are in the government. So continuity, if he runs with continuity, and there are people, but then, like you said, there are other people also, other elements keenly interested in the number one spot, and they have expressed their interest. Minister of Transport is there, the national leader of APC, who has most people see as the one waiting in the wings to get the party primaries, because he has been working assiduously for this one moment. And then probably without the national leaders' input in 2015, Buhari wouldn't have been president. We must give that credit to him. It was him who actually nominated the current vice president. Okay. So how this is going to pan out, like I said, in a 100-meter dash, the vice president is already 30 meters ahead of the competition. So, but how he manages the politics. Really, I agree with you totally that, yes, he will bring some vigor once he takes over in running the affairs of government. But then the politics, I don't think the politics will give him that leverage.
Well, that's exactly where I was coming to, but we'll come back to it after a short break.
Thank you.
Where you find that they must look like the same.
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
All right, welcome back. back. In case you're just tuning in, you're watching Daybreak on Trust TV. And we still have Deputy President, Nigerian Guild of Editors, Ali M. Ali, right here on the newspaper review. We'll move on to the Nation newspaper. And first of all, let's talk about, we're talking about the cost of governance. A story on the Nation newspaper says 37 billion Naira National Assembly renovation begins, and contractors have already been mobilized.
Well, I think I always say that the National Assembly, some people will say, yeah, it has been a money guzzler, from the structure to the actual running of the place. The structure itself is so bogus, one of the most intimidating, if you like, one of the most alluring structure housing a national parliament, worldwide. Worldwide. I'm not just talking of Africa, worldwide. So it's very imposing. And that amount is certainly colossal. And then I remember instance where one video that went viral, the leaky roof in the National Assembly. And so people say it's very unbefitting. But you see, when you are making, especially given our dire stress, because Nigeria is broke, that's the news. Nigeria is broke, struggling, gasping for breath. And the loans we've taken, whether we've not exceeded that margin of external borrowing or not. Like some argue that Nigeria's problem is not so much that of revenue. When we don't have, it's not so much that of, there's a technical term, it's revenue problem, so when you don't earn enough and then you are spending so much, you're going to have a problem. But that budget, really, some people say, look, it's way, way too high. But then the flip side is that how much is been budgeted, for example, to maintain the presidential villa? The presidential villa is another country itself. Elsewhere, more developed societies, except for perhaps the White House, 10 Downing Street, until Tony Blair, it was a two-bedroom affair. 10 Downing Street, where the Prime Minister of Britain lives. It's just a two-bedroom affair. You understand? Until Tony Blair, he expanded the house, and they say he had a large family. He had 3 kids also. That was quite a large family by their standards. But here you have a presidential, you don't know how much is being budgeted on the executive arm of government. And this is the counter-argument to that. When people kick against this large amount of money just to renovate, when the National Assembly was erected so many years ago, when it was built, well, the nation's currency then was a lot stronger vis-a-vis the dollar. But now, fast forward. But then, if you look at it, if you scrutinize that budget, just like if you scrutinize any other budget anywhere else, then you find that probably it's hyper inflated. You understand? Because Nigeria's contract is the most expensive in the world. This has been, it's in the public domain. At a point, United Nations,
the
World Bank said Nigeria rail kilometer charge, 1 kilo, is the most expensive in the world. So, you know, Nigeria, normally contracts are more often than not a bazaar for party stalwarts, for favored ones. A quick way, just the same way when we run our parallel exchange market. It's for the favored ones. And that's why people have raised this alarm, especially the likes of economic wizards, if you like, experts like Sunusi. He has always maintained that when you run a parallel market, what you have is the rent economy. People go, you are given at the appropriate official exchange, and then you go to the black market and putting a lot of pressure on the nation's currency. And then it has been on a free fall nowhere in the world. Before Britain exited from the
European Union.
Before it exited, there was a time, and that's why Britain opposed the idea of euro, to save the pounds. It spent a lot of money to protect the pound, and exited because it realized that on EU, the euro, because Germany is the leading protection house in the whole of Europe, it's going to affect the British pound, and it exited. Well, we see what happened when
But beyond the issue of inflation of contract, there's also the politics, or should I say policy of it. That is, even for the sake of optics, for the sake of PR, how is it a priority? Pushing 37 billion naira
at a time
like this to renovate the National Assembly structure?
I think it's ill-advised, like you said, even for PR, it's ill-advised at a time like this. It's ill-advised. You know why? This is my own position. When people say the cost of government is horrendous, and I've always said that, elsewhere, legislation is part-time business. Even America, where we copy this presidential system in total, you see, but in America, legislation is part-time. It's part-time. And you don't have, the American legislators, either senators or those in the Congress, do not have the latitude, do not have the luxury the Nigerian legislators enjoy. But then, if opinions like this would may be seen or misperceived as being critical of the National Assembly or the legislature of government, especially after the years of military rule. Normally, under military rule, that's why it's a dictatorship. The executive also double as the legislature. And that's why you have the Armed Forces Ruling Council or the Supreme Military Council also double is the executive arm as well as the legislative arm. So effectively sidelining and that's why the Nigeria's legislative arm of government has not grown the way it should have grown. And that's why perhaps when they have this freedom, the first time when we have this continuous democracy for 22 years now or 21 years, the legislature is still trying to find its feet. And that's why this the cost of running the legislature. Look at the sweetness they enjoy. What I mean, sweetness, constituency projects, you know, all kinds of allowances.
Just before we move on to the next paper, the controversial clause 84, subsection 12. Now, the appeal court has actually stopped Malami, and the PDP has actually gotten the nod to appeal Umahia ruling. What do you think about this?
Well, I think we will expect, if it's implemented to the latter, we see a lot of upsets. A lot of permutations will change now, because that section, which has been very vexatious, which has caused a lot of uproar for and against. With this latest position, we see a lot of things happening. A lot of people may not be eligible to run if they're in violation of that section. All those who have declared so far, unless they go immediately, I think the window has not been closed.
Yeah, it's not yet there, but it means that people will have to retire.
They have to resign. And it's only fair. It's only fair for people to resign from public office because they already have an undue advantage. Way back in 1983, Abubakar Rimi, the late governor of Kano, when he changed parties from the PRP, moved to another party, he resigned from office 6 months before the time and ran on another platform. I don't know the provision in the 1979 Constitution then, but that is the moral thing to do. You resign from office, otherwise you already have an undue advantage, especially if you are occupying executive position. When you're appointed, it's a different thing altogether. All the reason, even if you're appointed, you should. But you see, under even the Electoral Act, if you are elected, you still remain in office, you contest for the second time. But if you are appointed, you are minister, commissioner, chief executive of a parastatal ministry, MDAs, the moral thing is for you to resign and then face as an ordinary person. But then, if you are a serving minister, for example, well, 30 days, this constitution says 30 days before, but then you can't be a delegate, either to be elected or to be to vote for. That's the provision, that's the import of Electoral Act 84 subsection 12. That's the import. But constitutionally speaking, the Constitution says you resign 30 days before the time. But in the 1979 Constitution, I'm trying to remember because late Abubakar Rimi resigned 6 months before the time. And that's why somebody who has never faced the electorate became governor in Kano. He was first appointed as deputy governor after the first deputy governor was, was impeached. Impeached. You know, he became deputy governor by default. And then by default again, became the governor when Rimi resigned from office to contest on another platform. So I think it's the moral thing to do, really.
Well, let's move on to the Nigerian Tribune. And it has many stories here, but there is one that catches my attention that says NDLA intercepts 101 parcels of cocaine in children duvet at Lagos Airport, seizes drugged beverage in Edo. And there's another story saying zoning why PDP is in dilemma. So let's look at this NDLEA story. This has been a recurrent issue, and I think they have perhaps a new media strategy in which almost every weekend they release information about these seizures. What do you make of this unending drug fight?
Well, I think it's a good thing that the NDLEA suddenly has been is in the public arena, dishing out information. It's a good thing, but then sometimes also it's counterproductive. Sometimes when you have too much publicity, but you know that there is a new sheriff in town, and that sheriff, like we all know, given his history as a public administrator, as governor of Lagos State and Borno State, is someone who revels in publicity, in media bliss. Marwan loves the media. He likes to be in the media. So it's understandable if he's making such. And Nigeria traditionally has been a transit route. Some of these import of some of these substances banned, illegal worldwide, but they're money spinners. Nigeria is a transit route. So it's not just enough when they make such, like this latest catch now. in children's duvet. That's quite ingenious. We've seen even drugs being smuggled or exported in yam tubers.
In meat as well.
In meat. All manner of unbelievable...
They keep evolving
new
strategies.
So it shows that, yes, what happened in the past when we didn't know about this? Was it that before Marwa came, such things happened, they were not reported, or simply there were no catches because there were cover-ups, conspiracy? And I would like to believe in this theory I just propounded now, that in the past such things were happening, but because there is some kind of conspiracy, they were covered, or some people somewhere are benefiting from the transit. It's possible. That is very, very possible. And like people say, and I've seen this expressed beyond the shores of Nigeria, you see views from abroad. You see people expressing that in Nigeria, anything goes, anything from the point of entry to the point of exit. There are officials who are corrupt in all the agencies, immigration, the custom, the NDLA, with the appropriate greasing of the palm. Let me use what we say here. If you grease my palm, things will happen. So I think NDLA is doing a commendable job, and I think Marwa has risen the banner. Whoever takes over from him will have a tough time meeting up with some of his exploits. And look at some of the exploits. Who would have thought that what happened with this celebrated Super Cup now, who is caught in the snare of NDLA, who is now somewhere languishing in Kuje. So who would have thought that such things were happening? And it must have been going on for years without Nigerians knowing. So it really is good beyond the arrest. Also, there should be immediate prosecution and possibly naming and shaming of those who are in connivance with some of these couriers. Some of these people who courier some of this, and they're actually just an insignificant part of the whole process.
All right.
The big fishes are somewhere.
Thank you so much. We actually wish we could continue, but then time is not on our side. Thank you so much, Ali M. Ali, Deputy President, Nigerian Guild of Editors, for gracing us with your presence.
Thank you for having me.
We wish to have you another time.
My pleasure.
All right, with that, we'll take a quick break, and we'll be back at the top of the hour. Do stick around.
But in a situation where you find that a look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
Every patriotic Nigerian should hear this. Any politician who means well for the people will never allow themselves or their supporters to engage in any violent, destructive activities. No politician who truly wants to serve the people and develop the nation will encourage his followers to destroy properties or take human lives before, during, or after the elections. The Nigerian public must watch out for these traits and isolate any politician who encourages supporters to engage in violence. No genuine politician or patriot will cause trouble and seek to destroy the very society which they aspire to lead or develop. Politicians who have the good of the people at heart will not allow themselves or their followers to engage in violence, destruction of properties, and then taking of lives. Be vigilant. By their words you shall know them. Shun violence. Stay away from politicians who want you to do so. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. This message is from the National Orientation Agency, NOAA.
It is a beautiful morning here in Abuja. Thanks for having us and joining us in the studio for as we continue with the Daybreak on Trust Television.
Good morning and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Darshan Husseina Usman. Now, the Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo, declares his interest for 2023 presidential election.
Seraph gives 48 hours to the federal government to unblock all registered SIMs.
Bandits invade Gwagwalada Area Council, kill MACBAN chairman.
Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo has declared his interest in the 2023 presidential election, capping months of behind-the-scene yet apparent mobilization that have fueled speculations and pitted the number two against his erstwhile boss, former Lagos State Governor Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Mr. Osinbajo's declared intention via social media in the early hours of today. Let's have a watch.
Dear Nigerians, for the past 7 years, I have served as Vice President under a true Nigerian patriot, a servant of the nation in war and peace, and a man of integrity, President Muhammadu Buhari. We have, together, worked through some of the most difficult times in the history of our nation. But we have remained focused on securing the country, on providing infrastructure, and growing our economy. As stipulated by the Nigerian Constitution, our tenure will end next year. In this period of 7 years, I have served the government in several capacities, and I have, at the direction of Mr. President, represented our country in sensitive, high-level international engagements. I've been to practically all local governments in Nigeria. I've been in markets, in factories, in schools, and farms. I've been in agricultural, mining, and oil-producing communities, in the Delta, in Kebbi, in Enugu, in Borno, in Rivers, in Plateau and Ondo, and in all other states of the Federation, listening to the diverse experiences and yearnings of our people. I've visited our gallant troops in the Northeast and our brothers and sisters in the IDP camps. I've felt the pain and anguish of victims in violent conflicts, terrorist attacks, flooding, fire, and other disasters. I've been in the homes of many ordinary Nigerians in various parts of the country. I have sat with our techpreneurs in Lagos, Edo, and Kaduna, with our Nollywood and Kannywood actors, with our musicians from Lagos, Onitsha, and Kano, and I've spoken to small and large businesses. I stood where they stood, and I sat where they sat. I know their hopes and aspirations, and their...
All right, moving on. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has issued a 48-hour ultimatum to the federal government to unblock millions of unregistered SIMs. Last week, the federal government directed telecommunication companies in the country to bar all outgoing calls on subscriber identity modules not yet registered and linked with the national identification number by users. While reacting to the ban via a statement issued on Sunday, SERAP asked President Muhammadu Buhari to direct the Minister of Communication and Digital Economy, Issa Pantami, and the National Communications Commission, NCC, to immediately reverse the apparently unlawful decision to block over 72 million active telecommunication subscribers from making calls on their SIMs. While noting that the decision will dissuade the free expression of ideas and information, SERAP argued that the move is inconsistent and incompatible with the country's international legal obligations to respect, protect, promote, and facilitate economic and social rights.
Bandits have invaded Gwagwalada Area Council of Abuja and shot dead the chairman of Mieti Allah Cattle Breeders Association, Magban, in the council, Adamu Aliyu. Aliyu was said to have been killed alongside 4 others near Daku village in Dobi ward of the council on Thursday. Secretary of Magban in the area, Muhammad Usman, who confirmed the incident on Sunday, said 3 persons were abducted, while 3 others sustained who sustained gunshot wounds are receiving treatment at the University of Abuja Teaching Hospital in Gwagwalada. He said the late Magban chairman was killed by bandits who emerged from the bush and opened fire on his vehicle while they were returning from Izom Market in nearby Niger State. He said the deceased corpses had been buried according to Islamic rites. The chairman of Gwagwalada Area Council, Alhaji Adamu Mustafa, confirmed the incident to our reporter.
All right, with that, we'll wrap up the news highlights. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll move on to the discussion. All is now set for the local government elections in Katsina State today. This is as the State Independent Electoral Commission distributed sensitive election materials to the 34 local government areas of the state ahead of the polls. Abdullahi Amadi has the report.
Distribution of the election materials commences at the Katsina State branch of the Central Bank of Nigeria. SIEC Chairman Katsina Ibrahim Bako says the materials will arrive the 34 local government areas on Sunday night. He is also given assurances that the sensitive materials distributed, which include ballot papers, inks, and result sheets, will be distributed to wards and polling units Monday morning.
Also are here witness this August occasion, so that we want this material to arrive at each local government in good time, so that we start this election as scheduled.
The chairman of the State Electoral Umpire also said non-sensitive materials have already been dispatched ahead of Monday's election. 12 political parties are participating in the local government election.
You know, we have about 4,902 polling units, and we have a minimum of 2 people at each polling unit. So here we are talking about roughly 10,000 people that have conducted this election.
Observers say the Monday's local government election in Katsina will serve as a litmus test to what the process will look like in 2023 general elections in the state. Abdullahi Ismayamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
The electoral process have started running in full swing. Politicians across the country have technically launched into electioneering jostling to win the electorate and their votes. The potpourri of political activities have set the polity buzzing. There is tension and anxiety everywhere. All sides, all talks now focus on the elections coming in less than a year. But what about insecurity? The nemesis many believe is currently ruling Nigeria, every inch of Nigerian space. Has anyone given thought to how it shapes the color of things to come as we face the election? What are the more realities of insecurity in the country today? We are joined in the studio this morning by a member of the Northern Elders Forum who is also outspoken on the security issues, especially in the northwest of Nigeria, Professor Usman Yusuf, to help us provide answers to some of these poses. Good morning, Prof, and thank you for coming.
Thank you, Abdulaziz. Thank you, Husseina.
The attention almost of the entire country is now set on the next coming election. But how possible or feasible is the election in view of the security situation, especially in the northern part of the country?
Yeah, so let me correct you a little bit. The attention of the elites and politicians is shifted to election. The common man is suffering and eking a living. You know that. So I'm truly amazed that at a time in our history where we are facing the worst insecurity of our lifetime, our politicians, all they are interested in is scrambling for office for 2023 because they are disconnected from the realities of our people. This is the honest truth. In many states, I cannot see how we're going to have credible elections because of insecurity. There's so much voter apathy because of insecurity and because people have not been satisfied with the past 8 years. I'm from Katsina. 1/3 of our state is under siege by bandits. How are you going to have a credible election there? Zamfara, the story is the same. Sokoto, east of Sokoto, Kebbi, the story is the same. We are not going to have the kind of election they had in Yobe and Borno, where people line up in IDP camps. We are calling on the federal government and security agency to secure this nation so that our people, millions of our people that have been displaced from their ancestral homes, can go back home, back to their lives, back to their farms, back to their people. Politicians are disconnected from realities of our people. They're only interested in politics. Insecurity, insecurity, insecurity will unravel this country. We've been screaming that for the last 2 years. They are not listening. Without security in this country, there will not be a country for them to govern. And they are not realizing that. And that's why we're raising our voices. We are raising our voices and telling them security is more important than all this infrastructure they're telling us. You can build 1 million bridges or flyovers. If there are no people there, you're just wasting your time. You can build a road full of gold. Without security, nothing will happen. So I see all of these politicians declaring they want to be president, they want to be president. What are you going to tell my people about security?
Okay. Now, former President Obasanjo stated that the government is overwhelmed, but we actually have the Minister of Information saying they're not overwhelmed and insists that terrorists actually suffer heavy casualties, but we're not seeing that.
Yeah. Hussein, don't annoy me this morning because they're just talking, they are disconnected from realities of our people. I and Shegumi visited deep forest, 8 states in the north, 5 in the northwest, and 3 in the north central. We did not only meet the leaders of bandits, we met traditional rulers, we met clerics, we met arros, we met Ensake, we met victims, and had unspeakable horrors that no politician has had. They're here in Abuja declaring. And the Minister of Information saying, Terry, what does he know? Who has he seen? Where has he been? So they are disconnected from the realities of our people. Our people are in deep. Look at Abuja, Gwagwalada. This is the Federal Capital Territory. You're in Gwagwalada. The main artery to Abuja. From Kaduna to Abuja, people cannot drive safely. People cannot go on the rail safely. People cannot fly safely. Essentially, Kaduna is blockaded by these bandits. And we're here in Abuja deceiving ourselves. All is not well. Nigeria is not secure. Our people are not protected. And government needs to wake up and hear this loud and clearly. If they are deluding themselves, they need to wake up. The main issue for our people is security, security, security. This government came on three tripods that they're going to do. They're going to fix the economy, they're going to secure our nation, and they're going to fight out corruption. They haven't done any of these three. So they have records for us to question them about when they come 2023. Our people more secure today in 2022 than when they were in 2014? The answer is absolutely not. Because we've never seen IDPs until this government came. Our people were secure. Yes, we were poor, but our people were secure. We could go to the farm. Our women were not raped. Our cattle were not rustled. Our villages were not burnt. So we are much less secure today than we were 8 years ago. We are poorer today than we were 8 years ago. The economy in the north has essentially shifted to the forest, where bandits are getting hundreds of millions from people. And this government is coming to tell us we are going to, as part of our plan, we are going to take 100 million people out of poverty in 10 years. Then I ask, when does the count start? The World Bank just gave a report in the last 2 years, 8 more million people have gotten into poverty. We're poorer today than we were. Corruption less today than it was? The answer is no. So let us not delude ourselves. The three things that this government came on: fighting corruption, insecurity, and improving the economy, they have failed on all these three counts. And they have a record for us to ask them questions when they come 2023. Our people are not safe. We are poorer. And this country is more corrupt than it was before they came.
Prof, you said you've been to 8 states to see for yourselves. Can you give us a snapshot of the intensity of this problem?
Right. I mean, you've been, Abdulaziz, I'm talking to kindred spirit, but because you've engaged them too, you've engaged Turji. Zamfara is where we started. Zamfara is near and dear to me because that's where I spent my formative secondary school years, from 1972 to 1976. Zamfara is the ancestral home of Sheikh Dr. Ahmed Gumi. We went in there, why? Not at the behest of any government. We were not sent in there. We went in to listen. The Zamfara I know has turned into the way it is today. 70% of all bandits in this country have their origin in Zamfara. 70%. And Zamfara, wherever you find banditry, you can go back to what I call BHQ, Banditry HQ, and that is Zamfara. We ask ourselves, we do not ask ourselves questions, why and how did we get here? We'll only be deluding ourselves. We went to listen, because Martin Luther King said, violence is the language of the unheard. These are our people. I am Fulani, they are of flesh and blood. How did we get here? Nobody is asking that. The president is saying, go and speak to them. I will speak to them in the language they understand, or be ruthless. They have been speaking to us in the language we do not understand. Killing our people, raping our women, maiming, burning our villages. We are not listening. We went to listen, because it is not only the bandits. We have traditional rulers, we have clerics, we have archos, we have everybody. We hear unspeakable horrors when you come out, you want to cry. From people, from victims. These are our people. How did we get here? Nobody's asking such questions. Nobody's asking such questions. So we would listen to them, we would hear them in the thick forest. When we met in Niger, in the deep forest, we met war commanders, Kachallas from 6 northern states, deep into the forest. The Dogogi days. We would sit on the carpet on the floor, and then under a tree, Sheikh Gumi would listen to them, hear them out. They will say all their grievances. He will hear them. And he will speak to them in the sternest of voices. We have had your grievances. Your grievances are real. But these are no reason for doing what you're doing. There's nowhere in our culture, nowhere in our upbringing or scriptures that will agree with that. We've heard you. And the way we hear you, the next day we go back, we debrief the governors. We sit down with the governors. We went to Zamfara, we spent a week in Zamfara. We spent a week in Zamfara and we speak with the governor. And we told the governor we see poverty everywhere.
Okay, now what are some of those grievances? Because even those abductees that were abducted from Abuja-Kaduna train, the bandits actually said that the government knows what they want.
Yeah, so Hussein, what happened in Kaduna, Abuja is a different ball game. And I wrote a paper. We're in deeper trouble today than we were a long time ago. The reason is all this time we're going into the forest, Sheikh Gumi would talk to me with a sense of urgency. We need to get to these bandits before Boko Haram, ISWAP, Ansaru, or Dar es Salaam get to them. With their twisted religious ideology. These bandits have no ideology. All their grievances are generational over the lifetime of this country. We all know, we are folks in the forest. Over the lifetime of this country, our folks in the forest have never seen anything government. And now it has morphed into criminality. These bandits take these genuine grievances of majority of herdsmen and make it their shield and continue these grievances that has no relation with the people. So what did we hear? Simple basic things that we hear that can be solved if the leadership is listening. I've said it before and I will say it always. Banditry is essentially a social problem and Nigeria is increasingly militarizing because we are not listening. What happened in Abuja, Kaduna Railway is a new ball game, lethal, because those ones, they are not the regular ragtag bandits I own, as Abdulaziz saw. They don't have, the moment we saw that, we knew these are either Boko Haram, ISWAP, Ansaru, or Dar es Salaam. Regular ragtag bandits do not have explosives. Regular ragtag bandits, when they do their attack, you don't hear them screaming Allah Akbar or other religious incantations. Regular Boko Haram are not as daring, breaking into trains and grabbing people. We had stories that the captives were conveyed in Siena. This is not ragtag Boko Haram. And as the days go by, we are finding out these are not. This is Boko Haram, Ansaru, or Dar es Salaam. It's a terrible, 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 terrible combination. And we ask ourselves, people do not know. People need to ask themselves, why did Boko Haram not have a foothold in the Northwest all these 13 years? They've been causing problems because they have been preaching long before they picked up arms in the Northwest. And the reason is because it's not for lack of trying. It's not for lack of trying. And it wasn't accidental. They've been wanting to penetrate Kano. You remember the Emir of Kano, the late Emir of Kano, Ado Bayero? Yeah. The reason they did not get a foothold in the Northwest that they've been coveting for is because the traditional rulers and the clerics in the Northwest were very proactive in preaching against people accepting this their twisted ideology. So they have now gotten foothold into what they have coveted for years. A combination of these ragtag bandits, essentially foot soldiers, drug-fueled, battle-hardened, fearless, that know the terrain. And Boko Haram, ISWAP is going to be a lethal combination in this country. We've raised our voices worse than Al-Shabaab or worse than the Taliban. We need to be able to get the same traditional rulers, the same clerics, to tease them, to pull them away from this combination. Because this two combination is lethal. And federal government needs to understand the change that has come to this banditry. We're in serious trouble.
What's the outcome of your interventions? You mentioned that you met with the governors and all that.
Yeah.
But it's like nothing came out of it.
No. Abdulaziz, you know, you've interviewed, you've interacted with them. And we were not in any way deluding ourselves that 1 visit, 2 visits, 3 visits would make a difference. Not at all. And we were not the first. You probably were there before even we came. We were not the first to have engaged bandits. All the governors of northern Nigeria did. What happened? Anywhere you have conflicts, anywhere in the world, you see clerics coming in. From Lebanon, from the IRA, from Colombia, clerics come in as independent, impartial, between combatants. What we had, and I saw that these clerics, these bandits, in spite of all the mayhem they're causing all across this country, they listen to clerics. Turji, when he gathered for us, battalion size, deep into the forest, his child soldiers, over 1,000 of them, they were waiting 2 hours before we got there. He said they would not have gathered if it wasn't for a cleric coming. They don't necessarily know Sheikh Gumi. And the same in Niger, and the same in Kebbi, and the same in Sokoto. So they listen. I want to ask you, on the 5th of March, there was a huge Maulud gathering in Gusau. Hundreds of thousands of people, of faithfuls, gathered in Gusau. The guns fell silent. People went in there, hundreds of thousands, in Gusau, war zone. The event was done over 2-3 days. People went back home in peace. Nothing happened. So I tell people, the answer is back to our clerics, back to our traditional rulers. Politicians are the ones that caused this mess, and the military cannot solve this problem. Because I've said it again and again, there is a role for the military, but there's not going to be a military solution to banditry. If anybody tells you there's going to be a military solution, it's either he doesn't know it or he knows it. He's been dishonest. Nowhere in the history of warfare, none, have conflicts like this been won on the battlefield. The role of the military is to bring an enabling environment for dialogue to happen. So let us not put our military in an unwinnable, impossible situation. They have a critical role to play. They are not the cause of this mess, and they will not solve this mess. What will solve this mess is going back to the primary problem and sit down and involve all stakeholders, particularly clerics, traditional rulers in front. Politicians, give them the cover, and the military, the overriding cover, and everybody else coming in. What we realize, finally, is that all across the 6 geopolitical zones, elders have lost control of their youth. We Fulani elders have lost control of our youth. That's why you have the Fulani kids doing all of this. Kanuri elders have lost control of their youth. That's why you have Kanuri's kids as Boko Haram. Igbo elders have lost control of their youth. That's why you have kids that were born after the Civil War wanting to break this country up again. And we saw that in the Southwest. During NSAS, when they ransacked the palace of the Emir of Lagos, when they burned down Lagos and were coming this way, there was not a single Yoruba elder that could stand up and bring these kids back to order. What that tells us is that all of us elders need to come in and solve this problem.
But probably you have not answered my question about specifically your own mission. How or why did it fail somehow?
No, it hasn't failed. So
but
the purpose of
our anything out.
No, it hasn't failed. And like I said, you as the journalist, we as the clerics and going there, or the politician, or
is
the
it
soldier,
still on? Is it something
nobody.
that
We are doing things quietly. No one group of person can handle this problem alone. Especially when the center, their body language is different. Their body language is military, 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 military. It will come back to settling and listening to everybody. That will be the final. That will be the final. We are going. We've been visiting all over the place. As far as Elisha, Barutan, close to the borders with Benin Republic. Kogi, we went there. We are engaging. And it's not only the bandits. We are engaging legal Fulanis, preaching all across this country for peaceful coexistence with locals. We've been to 8 states, 28 more to go. We are in this country, what is happening is that there is essentially civil war going around between Fulanis and local communities. Fulanis and houses killing each other. Fulanis and Gwaris, Fulanis and Nupe, Fulanis and Dakarkari. If you do not have genuine local reconciliation, we'll be wasting our time. Problems are local, solutions must be found locally. Big plans from Abuja without consulting with locals will never work. Because Gandhi said, whatever you do for me, without me, it's against me. So we are, in fact, I just came out of a meeting and we're going into a meeting, we are talking. The difference now is we are not going into the forest to see bandits. Why? Because the federal government has declared them terrorists. So we cannot engage terrorists. We allow the military to go and deal with the terrorists. But we continue to engage.
Okay, well, like you said earlier, you know, most of the leaders, what they're interested in is the elections. And we also have INEC coming out to say that insecurity will not stop the polls in 2023. So if insecurity persists, how safe are, you know, the voters? We also have a lot of aspirants, especially presidential aspirants, coming out with the mantra of tackling insecurity if they are voted, you know, president.
Yeah, and I don't see any one of them coming to us and telling us how. If President Muhammadu Buhari from the Northwest cannot bring peace and security to the Northwest, who do we expect? Oshimbajo that has been with him for the last 7 years, they are part and parcel of this government that has failed to secure this country and protect our people. O Amechi, O Tinubu, who do we expect to secure Katsina if President Muhammadu Buhari could not secure that? They don't understand the culture, they don't understand the people, they don't understand the genesis, and they are part of this government. They have a record, we'll ask them. What are you going to do differently? You are part of the mess, you are part of the people that put us in this ditch. You cannot put us in a ditch and say you're the ones to get out of that ditch. What is more important to us, I've said it again and again, is insecurity secures. We have not seen any infrastructure. Corruption is continuing. Our economy is in the forest. Secures. What are you coming to tell us? Why should we vote for you? It's a simple question we'll ask them. And we're waiting for them. We're waiting.
So, Prof, at the final question, do you see elections holding in places, for example, like Burnungwari, like Shiroro, for example, in Niger State, or in places like Ankara, like Zurmi, for example, in Zamfara? How feasible, especially now, you know, in the new Electoral Act, it states that all primary elections must hold in the constituencies. Can these elections be places where political activities can actually take place?
Right, but the honest truth is no. The honest truth, yeah, there will be elections, but they will not be credible elections. Look at what happened in Anambra. Only 10% of the eligible voters, of the registered voters, voted in a governor. That's not the kind of election we want. We want an election where people are free and secure to come and cast their votes. We want an election where every eligible Nigerian can aspire to the highest office of the land, regardless of where he comes from. Without security, I do not see how credible elections will happen in Nigeria. End of story.
Thank you very much, Prof, for joining us this morning. And that's been Professor Usman Yusuf, a member of the Northern Elders Forum, who has also been in the forefront of finding solution to the security problem afflicting the Northwest Nigeria. Thank you once again, and we hope to have you another time.
Thank you. Thank you, Sena. Thank you.
So we take a short break, and we'll join you back in a moment.
As the 2023 elections draw near, remember, evil prospers when good men and women only wish for peace, but never take a step to make peaceful elections happen. Are you a father? Are you a mother? What are you saying to your children as elections approach? Have you warned them not to let themselves be used to cause violence? Have you explained to them what the consequences of electoral violence might be? Do your part to make peaceful elections happen. Talk to your children. Protect them from unscrupulous politicians who want to put them in harm's way, while their own children are comfortable at home, within, and outside the country. Let's join hands to make 2023 elections peaceful. This message is from the National Orientation Agency, NOAA.
All right, welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak on Trust TV. Now, moving on to the next discussion, which is on third force. This is what we will be talking about right now. Hello, good morning. We have our guest online already with us. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Adewale Adebayo. Adewale Adebayo is a presidential aspirant under the platform of the Social Democratic Party, SDP. Thank you once again for joining us. One issue going into the 2023 election is that the yearning, or so to say, by Nigerians to have a third force, that is an alternative away from the two dominant political parties in the country. But there are also misgivings that a third force is not yet ready. How ready are platforms like yours to give these two parties a run for their money, to actually put them on their toes and compete for them in the upcoming election?
Well, the situation in the country is glaring to everyone that the two political parties that for 23 years have been given the opportunity to showcase what they have to offer to the Nigerian people have failed. That is not controversial. What we also need to realize is that because of the low participation of Nigerians in the two political parties, the entire population of Nigeria has a majority that belongs to the third force. Because if you use any metric, whether it's political party membership, whether it is the number of people who have served in and out of government in the past 23 years, or if it's in election turnouts, turnout of voters, you will see that those who belong to these political parties, who have been in government, who regularly vote for them, are about 10% of the population. So 90% of the electorate actually has been looking for a third force for a long time. So what we are doing at this time are three things. One, we are articulating the urgency of the matter, given the fact that daily, hourly, we find out that the government of the day and the majority alternative to it have no solutions to the problems we are facing and escalating. Second, we're trying to get the third force to coalesce together, because so far, what has happened is that the third force is splintered and people are not articulating together and building a platform to bring strong political candidates to rival the status quo. Thirdly, we are starting early, not waiting for a crash program a few months to the election, and then we're now coming out. Those are the things we are doing. And I believe that in the environment where the Electoral Act has been improved upon, where the electoral systems have also brought in some improvements, and where there is abject hopelessness at this time, and where the evidence of non-performance and malfeasance is obvious, I think the Nigerian people will give the third force and led by the Social Democratic Party an opportunity to give hope again to the Nigerian people.
He said that no single party is strong enough to dislodge the PDP and the APC without a broad-based coalition. Is this true?
It will be easier to do that because with a coalition, because in a democracy, you need to win majority. And some of the people who are in different political parties from SDP, many of them, first, we all uniformly agreed that there should be neither of the two big parties to come back. So we agreed 50% of the way. And when you look at the program content and the prescription for leadership qualities, you will see that we basically agree. So what we'll be trying to do is to remove the ego part of it, where you say it has to be me, it has to be me, I'm more educated than you, I look better than you, I talk better than you, I have more resources than you. We try to remove those artificial differences and say, broadly, we agree that it will be a disaster of monumental proportion to allow either of these two political parties who have ruined everything to continue to come back and ruin more, because there isn't much more to even ruin anyway. So next to that is that we all agree that the country needs a freshness that it has not got before. And given this kind of case that we're making to the Nigerian people, there isn't any reason for us to confuse them with too many good candidates running against one another. So we thought that the best thing to do is to talk, and we've managed so far. You would notice that in this season, on the side of the third force political parties, we've had far fewer presidential candidate aspirants. It's on the other side that they have tens of them. On our side, we have much fewer, and we are not in a secular firing squad shooting against one another. We're actually maintaining the same message to the Nigerian people that there should be none of these other parties. There should be no APC, there should be no PDP, for the sake of your children and grandchildren, to save yourself from being a refugee in your own country and from getting worse and being a refugee outside your own country, to stop your economy from going to total collapse, which is heading to save yourself from kleptocracy and daylight robbery, to be able to stop a situation where 90%, I'm told now, it used to be 75% of your crude oil is actually being stolen, and the government is looking away, and people in government are making criminal amount of money, to avoid a situation where you are home and you are not able to go out because the bandits is likely to attack you when you go out. When you are within the city, even in a city like Abuja or Lagos, you are having people.
Mr. Adebayo, can you hear me? All right, so now you talked about Nigeria needing some freshness. Now, what is that fresh, believable, what is that fresh thing and believable thing that you're bringing to that the SDP is bringing to the table, that is worth the attention and membership of disappointed Nigerian electorates?
Okay, number one, the freshness we are bringing in is fresh personnel, because people who, if you notice in the two political parties, just do a census of it. Since 1999, it's the same people. Whether one party comes to power or the other, they are the same people. So the chairman of the APC now used to be a governor under PDP, and the PDP chairman now, and some of his people used to serve under APC. They were with them last time. So long and short of it is this, that you have freshness, because with freshness, you have fresh attitude, because the government is run by people. And if you have the same people who behave the same way, looking for the same thing, you cannot say you have a change. Just that they have a change of slogan or symbol without changing the people. So we are bringing fresh people. Secondly, we are bringing fresh idea. And the fresh ideas we are bringing are as follows. For security, you need a commander-in-chief who is abreast of security and who is aware that the security crisis in Nigeria is not a necessary security crisis, but that the people in the security sector have turned it into a business and they are trying to perpetuate it, and it will have many dimensions. You will see worse dimensions soon unless you address that, because once it's a peer situation, once people find out that their peers are making a hell of money out of a bad situation, they too will follow suit. And that is what's happening. You will see that it's obvious that the economy is being mismanaged. The central bank has become part of the political party, and that's why their head is also being touted to be one of their aspirants. You would also see that the currency is falling apart. So you would also see that uh, petrol, the petrol that we are supposed to, crude oil that we're supposed to use as our revenue is being stolen. So we are bringing in an idea which arrests all of this. If you don't arrest these things, you'll be talking about them forever.
Nigerians have for platforms like yours is that while you show initial seriousness, as the election comes close, these parties like yours get either hijacked by one of the major parties or they sell out to some of these major parties. How is it? What assurances are you giving that the 2023 scenario is not going to be the same?
In 2023 will not be the same because, one, the problems of the country are not the same. This is not an election year in which you run out of pleasure or just to make a name. You are running to save your life. In times past, you will not find someone like me in any political party. I will typically be in my law office practicing law, and if politicians have court problems or legal problems, they come to me. But my life is at stake. The life of my mother is at stake, of my children is at stake. So there is no room for compromise. Any Nigerian who is sitting on the fence or who is trying to play games in this political season is actually attempting suicide, because a week before the bomb blast on the train, I was on the train. I take the train regularly. So if I could have been there, I could have been dead. So there's nothing funny. If you are at your house, as I'm talking to you, I'm getting messages from various people saying they are attacked at home, someone is missing. There is nothing to joke about. So this is a very serious season. And in our political party, we are always serious people. In 1993, SDP with MQ Abiola won the June 12th election. That is what we want to replicate now and improve upon. We are not in the mood for games. And people like us, if you just need to just search our background, we have never been part of such nonsense in the past, and we will never be. What we are doing now, if we find someone like me coming out saying, I want to be president, not that I want to be a councillor or governor or senator, I want to be president. You show to you that I have seen that there is no qualified person in the main political parties who would be able to help us. So we young people need to come out and be bold and be practical and realize that problems go away when you solve them. Any good person who is patriotic, who is knowledgeable, who is competent, who is energetic, and who is very bold, we will solve our problems. They are not so difficult to solve. The problem is that those who are there now have formed a habit of using these problems to share money and to play around. And when occasionally it boomerangs, they will look sad for a week or so, but immediately after, they go back to the normal thing that government money is meant to be shared, and government property is meant to be looted. And that is what is killing us. The bandits in Nigeria are not impervious to bullets. They're not that hard. Just that those who are running the system are joking with it, and we are coming out to stop that.
Mr. Adebayo, one issue is that of resources, the funding for activities like electioneering activities, which is, quite intensive. How are you going to surmount that challenge of funding for a party like yours and for a country as vast as Nigeria to finance a presidential election?
Okay, there are 4 ways we are tackling that. Number one, you need to know that elections are not won on the pages of newspaper or TV studios or radio. They are won in the polling unit. The problem the parties had before was that they were not present in each of the 186,000 plus polling units. So that is where the problem lies. You must be present in the polling unit. You cannot be in Abuja, Lagos, Kano, Port Harcourt, and start saying you are this and that. You must be present, and we are present. Second, you must know the difference between necessary money in politics, legal money, and criminal money. If you remove the money for bribery, the money for mischief, the money for buying votes, and all of that, the legitimate money is easy to find, because it is not one person who wants to be president who has to have a bullion van and who has to have robbed a bank before. What the person needs to do is to be a credible, serious person and have at least 3 million people making a contribution to the campaign. And that's what we are having. You cannot be president of Nigeria unless millions of Nigerians want you to be. And if they want you to be, 2 things will happen to you. They will not ask you to give them money before they do things for you. Second, they would contribute money where ordinarily, if they don't believe in you, they will say it's your personal affair and you will have to send them money even to paste posters. In our own case, you will see very funny looking pictures of mine on many walls of the country. People just go to the internet, download any picture they can find and make posters out of them. So they may look funny and awkward, but to me, it signals that people are not waiting for you to send them posters. I had people almost fighting with me last night because they said they were looking for my poster they can't find. And I'm sure it's not only me, there are other people who are having the same experience. So money is not going to be our problem. Since we are not trying to bribe INEC, we're not trying to bribe police, we're not trying to bribe voters, how much money do you need? So I think that we will do very well and money politics will be defeated this time around. So we are not intimidated by that.
All right, thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak today, Prince Adewale Adebayo. Thank you so much. We hope to have you again next time.
It's a pleasure. I'm grateful to you. Thank you very much.
Adewale Adebayo is actually a presidential aspirant on the platform of Social Democratic Party, SDP, and he joins us virtually all the way from Lagos. With that, we've come to the end of Daybreak today on Trust TV. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back again tomorrow, same time, same station. I'm Darshan Hussaina Usman.
Thank you very much for having us, for staying with us this morning. See you tomorrow. I am Abdulaziz. Have a beautiful day.